Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Today I'm going to be doing another American Horror Story Season 8 Apocalypse episode recap and review. This week's episode is number 9 in the season, and it is called Fire and Rain. So being episode 9, it is the second to last episode in the season, which is crazy. I can't believe it's nearly over. Now, before I get into the video, I did want to mention a couple things. As always, I did want to point out that I've done videos like this for every episode in the season so far, so I'll make sure I put that playlist up and down below in case you want to check it out. And I feel like it could be pretty useful to do that. If you want to watch all those episodes, I've done recaps on all the episodes, so it could be a nice condensed way to catch up before the finale. And of course, you could also spend the next week rewatching old episodes. I know that's definitely what I'll be doing in the next week, preparing for the final episode. And now the last thing I wanted to point out is that, of course, I will be beginning with a recap here on the episode and then getting more into a review and thoughts on what to expect for the finale in this instance. So I will make sure I put a timestamp up above if you wish to skip ahead, but I do feel like the recap is pretty useful to listen to if you wish to do so, so I'll leave that choice up to you. But now with all of that being said, I'm just going to get started with the recap. Alright, so this episode began with Jeff and Mutt in their lab, and Jeff was working on a robotic arm that was firing a gun, and he was also complaining about lots of small inconveniences and saying that he wanted the world to end. Venable also joins them in the lab, and she is there to remind them about a cooperative meeting. She does also ask if she can join the cooperative. She questions them a little and wants to play a part in the cooperative. Now, they do decline her request, even though she said she sacrificed so much to help them out at this point and just helping them out in their company, but they say no, they don't want her to be a part of it, so she does say she wants to leave or quit. Over at the witches' school, Mallory is unsuccessfully trying to revive a dead bird. Unfortunately, her powers weren't strong to do this, even though she's done it many times before, and Cordelia mentions that the witches will be safe inside the school after Michael's threats, as she's placed a protective aura around Ms. Robichaud's academy. Along with this, the other witches, Zoe, Queenie, and also the other ones who we've seen but haven't been there as long, are performing some other protective spells inside. However, Dinah arrives at their door and she performs some magic of her own to break down the barrier to allow herself, Michael, and Ms. Mead access into the house. Once inside, Ms. Mead uses her robotic gun arm to start firing at the witches. They did try to put up a little bit of a fight at first, but it was no match for them and they all are getting gunned down. So unfortunately all of the newer witches, Bubbles and Zoe, are all killed. Queenie does put up a bit more of a fight using her voodoo doll power to slit her own throat, and she gets Ms. Mead, but because Ms. Mead is a robot, it doesn't really do that much, and she also gets shot as well. Upstairs in the academy, Cordelia, Myrtle and Mallory hear this, and they do escape, even though Mallory did want to stay and fight, but Cordelia knew that it would just be useless and there were no match for him. They needed to keep Mallory and the rest of the surviving witches safe, so they fled. At this point, Michael also thanked Dinah for her help, and he said, "Satan just greenlit your talk show for 13 episodes, so now we know how she got her TV success that she spoke about at the start of the season." Back at Ms. Mead's house, Michael reflects on what he's done and what he can do next, and through Ms. Mead, or Robotic Mead, Jeff and Mutt speak to him, although they put it under the guise of Ms. Mead's ideas. So they're just programming her to get what they want, which is ending the world, and they're trying to steer him in that direction. Apparently the one idea he had on his own was directly taken from the Omen 3 plot, and in the end, Ms. Mead, programmed by Jeff and Mutt, convinced Michael to meet back up with them so that they could share some ideas and tell him what to do next. Once Michael meets with Jeff and Mutt, they discuss the cooperative and also let slip that it used to be known as the Illuminati, or it is the Illuminati and now they just call it the cooperative, and that of course all of the richest and most powerful people are a part of it. They say that by working together he will be able to reign for 1,000 years of fire, as mentioned in the Book of Revelations in the Bible, and they tell him that they know exactly what to do in order to get countries all over the world to bomb each other to wipe out majority of the population. And Michael is keen on this idea, but not for the same reasons as Mutt and Jeff. He really only cares that it will take out the witches. Meanwhile, the surviving witches have all gathered in Misty's cabin, and Misty's absence is explained. Apparently she's off gallivanting with Stevie Nicks. But the other witches are there hiding from Michael. Now Cordelia, trying to bring back her girls, astral projects back to Miss Robichaud's academy, and she tries to bring back Zoe and also Queenie, but it's unsuccessful. When she tries to bring them back to life, their bodies, or what she's seeing as their souls maybe, just disappears and fades away. After this attempt, Cordelia is very distraught, and when she's physically and mentally at Stevie's cabin, she explains to the other witches that she couldn't bring them back, and she's super distraught and confused as to why this is. And at that point, Madison connects the dots and mentions that she was aware or had heard that Michael was able to destroy souls after he kills people. And this really does enrage Cordelia that she didn't know until now, and that all hope is lost at bringing back Zoe and Queenie, and the other witches as well, so she slaps Madison. At this point, Myrtle does mention an idea she has on getting Mallory to go back in time. She thinks this is an option because she's seen Mallory reverse the aging process of a deer that was killed. Mallory healed the deer and also turned back the clock on its lifespan. Myrtle also mentions that no witch has successfully been able to perform time travel, or they do refer to it by another name, under the spell that they'd be using to go back in time, but she does say that it is something that she thinks Mallory is able to do. Then Myrtle tells a story of a moment in history, and we see a flashback back to 1918. The Romanoff family is woken up in the middle of the night by soldiers, and they're about to be executed, but one of the young girls in the family, Anastasia, tries to protect them with just a protective aura, I guess, using some spell work of her own. And unfortunately she does fail and they all get killed, but Myrtle knows of this time and tells the story to the witches, and she says she wants Mallory to go back in time and change this. And apparently they picked this moment in time because they wanted to change something that Michael wouldn't find out about. And when Mallory attempts this, she is able to successfully go back, and she interacts with Anastasia and helps protect her and her family for a brief period of time, but then she fades away and fails. So she goes back to her own time and the family still dies. But she was able to time travel, which is good to see at the very least. Now after this, Cordelia is speaking with Myrtle, saying that she knows she won't be ready or successful in trying to change events of the past, while Cordelia herself is still alive. Cordelia also talks about her mother with Myrtle, and she says she doesn't want to be like her. She says that she wants them to do the sacred taking in order to get Mallory up to her full powers and full strength. And of course Myrtle rejects this idea, and she says they just need to buy some more time. So now the witches are trying to get some help from the warlocks. I guess they speak to them and then go to the boys' school, but when they arrive, all of the warlocks have been massacred and their bodies are arranged in the shape of a pentagram. Over at the cooperative building, or the robotics lab, Venable has tried to resign and she's packing up her things, but Jeff and Mutt go to her and they tell her that the world is ending. They ask her if she's heard of the Illuminati, and they confirm that it is the cooperative. They mention alongside the world ending that they are building outposts for the right people to stay there and survive. They say that they need people to run these outposts, and they ask her to run one. Then there is a meeting of the cooperative, and I do wonder, is this meant to be the one that Venable was mentioning before? So it's hard to know if Jeff and Mutt are in attendance because all of the people there have visors over their faces, or masks covering their faces. And Michael is there to run the meeting or speak to everyone in attendance. He tells them all that he is the Antichrist and that it's time to wipe the slate clean. It's time for the apocalypse. He says that he has a plan to send all of the right people to fallout shelters, and that they'll be able to put together these outposts with all of the property and money and resources that all of these powerful people have. So he starts telling them what they can do next. And that's the end of the episode. So I feel like this episode was definitely jam-packed, even though it was a lot shorter. There were lots of questions answered and lots of things addressed. And I feel like it's brought it to a pretty good point for just before the end of the season, so that hopefully next episode will get into the current timeline, or even beforehand if they're preventing the current timeline that we saw at the start of the season. Now, unfortunately, this episode was a little bit on the shorter side as well. Like last week, I think it was less than 40 minutes as well, but still super jam-packed. Anyway, this episode answered so many questions, and some of those questions or answers that they gave us were so much backstory on the cooperative, who they were, the Illuminati. We know that now, and I don't know if many people had guessed that. I guess that's not something that I had considered, even though they were definitely a powerful group and we knew that. I didn't necessarily assume that they were the Illuminati, so that's pretty cool to know. It also explained how they planned for survival with the outposts. It also explained how Dinah got her talk show success that she mentioned at the start of the season, and I think when it was mentioned I had speculated that maybe it was through magic, since we knew that she was a witch, or I think at that point it was a speculation that she was a witch. But now of course we know it was because she did a favour for the Antichrist and the devil paid her back. In this episode we got to see what happened to the witches, with Zoe and also Queenie, why they weren't around at the end, and also all of the younger witches as well, along with what happened to the warlocks and where they were. Of course, Behold and John Henry were killed, along with all of the young warlocks at the school. Now, I know they hadn't shown them since episodes back when Michael joined, and I'd been wondering, where were they? They kept showing the higher-ups, but none of the young students, and even though it hasn't shown what they've been doing this whole time, we now know that unfortunately they've all been killed off. We now know pretty much all of the backstory into how Michael orchestrated this apocalypse, and also time travel has been confirmed and proven to be successful by Mallory. She was able to go back in time, even though she didn't necessarily change much. She was able to, and I was very excited to see that. I think very early on I was thinking time travel will be a factor in this season for multiple reasons. There were certain hints in the opening credits, so many posters with things like hourglasses that made me wonder, but of course it was really hammered home when Mallory reversed the life of that deer, even though it just seemed like extreme healing. I did wonder if time travel would be possible in this world, and I'm super happy to see that it is. There are of course still some remaining questions, for example, how the past, flashbacks and also present day that we saw at the start of the season will meet. I feel like the timelines are pretty close, but it'll be very interesting to see how they close that gap. Also of course a big one, how and if they will defeat Michael. Will they be able to reverse the apocalypse? I know a lot of people are saying that since there is a scene in Hotel that takes place after the year apocalypse is set in, or at the most future forward date, it seems like things will be reversed or set right. So it'll be very interesting to see if that happens, or if it's disregarding the year that was shown in Hotel, if it's more of an alternate timeline, so to speak. We also need to see and find out a little bit more about the identity spell that was placed on the surviving witches and how they all gained access to the outpost. And along with that, where were Cordelia, Madison and Myrtle during that time, and what were they doing? And Michael on that point too, I guess. Maybe he was just in another outpost or somewhere else, but that will be very interesting to see. And then another big question, how did Timothy and Emily fit in? I believe I saw Emily is confirmed for being in next episode, so of course we can assume Timothy is as well. I don't think those characters would just be throwaway characters. I expected to see them again, and I've seen a couple people speculate certain things. One of them being that maybe they will have a child and eventually that one will be a new Antichrist. If they have that special DNA, maybe it is evil DNA or something along those lines. There's a lot of theories floating around about them. Some people have said they think Timothy is the real Antichrist. They think Emily could be the girl from Roanoke, the little girl at the end, Lee's daughter. And I think for a long time as well, people have also been saying they think that they are the children from Asylum, kids, just because of how they look. So I guess there's so many different options. It might be none of those. I think at the start of the season I thought they'd be shown maybe to have a happy ending or something silly like that, just to show how their lives would be if the apocalypse didn't happen. Maybe they'll be coming back in that way, but either way we only have 1 week until we find out. I guess thinking about next week, if time travel will occur, I do wonder where Mallory will go to and what she will do. How far she'll be going back, if maybe preventing Michael being born. I guess that's one thing I wondered at the start of the season and thought it seemed super far-fetched then, but a little bit less far-fetched now. If she was to go back to Murder House, which it definitely seems scenes will take place in Murder House next week, what she'll be doing and how it will affect the other characters. I guess there's definitely a follow-on through certain actions in the Murder House. Of course now, after everything that's happened so far, it seems like the Harmon family is happy even though there are ghosts there. They've kind of made peace and Moira has been set free. Constance is also a ghost. There's certain things that are set in stone at the moment, but if they go back, will Moira be stuck there forever? Will the Harmons never move there? Will Tate impregnate someone else? There's so many different questions and I really can't wait to see what happens, but I guess we do know Timothy and Emily will be back. Hopefully we see something eventuate from this time travel in a satisfying way. And of course they go back to Murder House next week. Now before I finish up, there are 2 photos that I wanted to mention that are from the show, and I guess I just wanted to talk about what they could mean. One is of Cody Fern in a bath, and some people are saying he's in a bath of blood. Who knows whose blood it could be if that is the case, if it's for a spell or some sort of ritualistic what have you. Or some people are saying it is black water, like when Mallory travelled back in time and the water turned black. So there are people saying that maybe he is redeemed or changes his mind and maybe he reverses the apocalypse, which is an interesting theory, but I'll make sure I put that picture in, along with another photo that I'm guessing will tie into next week of Cordelia, Madison and Myrtle covered in dirt standing outside. And I'm pretty sure the outfits they were wearing are the same as the outfits that they wore when they went to the outpost to revive their sisters and show down with Michael. And for that matter, I think Michael in the bath is wearing the same outfit from that scene as well. But that's something interesting to think about. Maybe these two photos will have something to do with the showdown that they have. Also, before I go, this isn't due to any photos or anything, but a big prediction people have been making for a while is that Mallory is to the side of good as Michael is to evil. So maybe she's an angel or a godlike figure, second coming of Christ. And if that's the case, many people are saying that maybe she will use her power and sacrifice herself. Of course, she's extremely powerful and that maybe is a bit of a stretch, but I do wonder if to save the world, it will take her own life. Now I want to clarify that's not something I've thought of, just read a fair bit online, so many people seem to be coming to this idea, but I guess only time will tell. We really have to wait and see, but luckily we only have to wait for one more week until this season wraps up. I mean, it's bad that it's kind of a short season, but it'll be good to hopefully have all questions answered by next week. Alright, but now that's it for my video here today. I do hope you enjoyed this one. Please give me a thumbs up if you did. Also, let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of the season so far? What did you think of this episode? And what do you think will happen next week in the finale? Or how do you want it to end? Definitely let me know in a comment down below. Also let me know, did I miss anything? Are there any important points from this episode that you want to share? Make sure you let me know in a comment down below. But like I said, I am leaving this one here today. So I wanted to thank you again for watching and hopefully I'll see you next week. Bye!